How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel. So today we're going to talk a little bit about if you get invited fishing out by a friend, instead of taking something like this where you have a lot of your tackle, it is too much. You want to downsize a little bit, just bring the essentials and something a lot smaller, just like a little day bag. So I went out fishing with one of my buddies, Ron, so this is kind of what inspired the video. It's I don't want to bring too much to where it's I have more than I'll ever use for that trip, but it's I also want all the essentials down. So I wanted to show you what I would bring for a little trip like this. And we did this morning. Ron caught a little 1 pound bass, but that was about it. Well, first you want your sunglasses. That's important. And sunscreen too if you are prone to sunburns, but it's overcast day, but this little drawstring bag is perfect for just going out and just having a short little fishing trip. I have everything that I would ever want to bring with me, and as well as the rods that I brought. And so let's go over some of the tools first, then we'll get into tackle and gear that I would bring. So the first thing in the bag is you need a pair of pliers. And honestly, glad I brought this because the fish that Ron hooked into, he really hooked into it pretty deep to where he had to use the pliers. And he forgot his, so we had a backup, which luckily was good. And I usually just like to have that in the side pouch. Just have this little tool. Cut your line with. Also, it has a hook sharpener on it. I went over this tool a little bit on what's in my tackle bag. This is something nice that I like to bring with. Want to bring a scale with me, just in case we caught that big one. Want to get a weight on it. So that's pretty much it. Just a little thing to cut my line, whether it's a little tool like that or a pocket knife. Like to bring the scale with me just in case you catch that big one, and then also bringing an extra pair of pliers, something like that. And if we were using a lot of we cranked a little bit, but if we were using a lot of treble hook baits, I would want to bring a pliers with the good wire cutters on it, just in case we got hooked. But one of the first things that I always bring with me is my terminal tackle. So this has all my hooks, weights, tungsten weights, lead weights, bobber stops, things like that. I'm always going to bring this because I love throwing that Texas rig around. And then the next thing, this is probably a box that you guys want to see. So, this is the day box that I put together to go on this little fishing trip. I'll pop that back in there. I was taking stuff off and retying it, just kind of got thrown in the bag versus actually putting it back where it should have been. But let's go just left to right through this box. Give you a little bit of a close-up of it. Kind of get an idea of what's in there. So, from left to right, I have, starting over here on the left, I have a lot of moving baits. So, that includes, for this little section, I have some lipless crankbaits that I have in there, and I have some chatterbaits that I brought with that I didn't use, and yeah, just another lipless crankbait. Moving on, so we did some frog fishing. That's what's in this next section here, is I have some frogs, but I also have some spinner baits. But I have my frogs in here. I got my regular frog. This has the white bottom. The one that I had tied up, since it's a bit overcast, is a darker frog. So I felt in this situation where we have overcast, that darker frog is going to be the key. A darker profile, them looking up for them to see. At least I think that's how it works. I'm not an expert. And then I have some spinner baits, but we weren't working on that. And then the next thing is I have some square bills. So I have a couple square bills and then a couple deep divers that I brought with for like deep cranking. And then I have this little square bill that I made that looks like Pikachu, which is awesome. I should have used that. That probably would have caught the fish, something different that they haven't seen. And then over on the farthest side is jigs. So I just got a variety of different colors of jigs, mainly green pumpkin, watermelon, and then black and blue. And those were the jigs that the ones on the top are the ones that I just recently bought. And didn't get into, didn't do any jig fishing today, but I wanted that option just in case because I love doing that. And it's what I'm confident with using. So a lot of the stuff that I have in here is stuff that I have confidence in and stuff that I want to throw, as well as, there's a lot of different applications, different lures in here that we could have used. But I didn't want to bring a ton of tackle. Everything just fit right in this little bit deeper Plano tackle box. But I also brought quite a few soft plastics with me. Just in case, because I had a Texas rig tied on initially, just in case I wanted to do some different presentations. So we'll just go through these real quick. So I brought those swim baits with me, the Rage Swimmers, and actually I took some swim bait hook heads and I just put them right into the packaging. And I thought that was a good idea because they're right there if I want them. I don't have to take up compartment space in the tackle box. So I really liked having these with in case I would use those, or as trailers for if the spinner bite was working. As since it is summer, you can't be fishing in the summer without a big ribbon tail worm. These are in June bug color. This is a good color for dark water like we were fishing. And then moving on, I also had these speed worms, these Zoom speed worms, also in June bug. It's also this is a good worm for dragging across the bottom, but it's also good for swimming through the water column. Like literally you could swim this worm at any depth and it'd be a good one to use. And then moving on, I brought some of those Reaction Innovations Sweet Beavers in Tramp Stamp. That's a good color because it's like green pumpkin on the one side and then the black and blue on the other side. So in case I wanted to start flipping, I had some baits that I could flip with. And then also I brought those Rage Craws just in case, hey, maybe, which honestly this might have been the move because when he moved his boat there was some crawdads underneath, so match the hatch. Maybe I should have flipped with that, but oh well, I'll know for next time. And then the last thing that I brought, just in case I wanted to finesse it down a little bit, was I brought some of the Gary Yamamoto Senkos. These are the 4-inch ones. I don't have a 5-inch like June bug color or like black and blue. That's what I really want to get here pretty soon. Probably not going to be Gary Yamamoto Senkos because those are just redonkulously expensive. Like, not to go off on a tangent, but like there are other good stick baits out there that are not Senkos that you can get that work just as well. Moving on to the combos that I brought, I didn't want to bring too much because we're just in a little jumbo. So a little bag, and I chose 3 sticks to bring. So the first one is I just brought my spinning rod. So you always need a spinning rod when you're going out, and that just has that Ned, that Strike King Ned rig on it. Which I've gotten a few hits on these with schooling bass in a different lake, but always need to bring a spinning rod with you. Just for that finesse bait, you know, just in case I wanted to throw the Senkos. Then the next one that I brought with is my ugly stick rod. So this is a 7-foot medium heavy. And we didn't have too thick a cover, like the pads weren't too thick, but to where I used this to pitch around with. And then not the perfect rod for like crankbaits, but it has a little bit softer tip to where, you know, I threw that crankbait around. Then the last rod that I brought, which I used quite a bit, is just my 7.6 medium heavy Veritas rod with that Shimano on it that I just got myself. And then that Booyah pad crasher, which I think I need another frog, something, this is the darkest frog that I have, needs something just pure black. You know, just going on, like, if you're just going on a little day trip, like, that's all you need. You need like 3 rods, just a little bag to come and take with you, and, you know, just a tray full of tackle. That's all you really need for a small little day trip, going out fishing for a couple hours, even the whole day. I would have been like comfortable fishing the whole day with just the stuff that I brought. But that's gonna do it for this video. Hope you liked it. Hope it gave you some ideas on what to bring with you for like just short little trips versus, you know, hauling your big tackle bag around. That wouldn't have been very practical for this little trip. And honestly, Ron was like, yeah, you can come fish on the John boat anytime, so that would be some fun content to create there. But also, just like, I'm not going to bring my big tackle bag every time. I'm just going to have this little day bag with the stuff that I'm confident with throwing, and some stuff in there that, you know, maybe I should practice with a little bit more, especially if the bite's good. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe. Consider subscribing, you know. I really appreciate that. And go and give this video a like. Share with friends, share with 2 friends. And I'll see you for the next one.